So a previous video about UI and UX and the problem with UI/UX, UX/UI, and all those different hybrid roles which focus on pixel perfection and UI as the ultimate solution was one of the most divisive videos I think I ever had. And that's totally fine, because that was the whole idea. It was about for people to think about what we're doing and what we're actually investing their time on, so that we don't sabotage the future of their careers. But this is where the interesting bit is. I want to continue on that note. A lot of people were hammering the notion that, hey, UX happens regardless. I totally agree. It doesn't matter what you do. You could kind of call yourself, a superstar UX designer and join the actual project and do nothing. Like literally nothing, just sit on a side. It's gonna happen regardless. You could join a team as, let's say, user researcher and do nothing but UI design. UX is gonna happen as well. As a final product is gonna happen. Because how else do you think the teams who have no UX or UI support or research support still manage to produce some sort of user experiences? Are they good? It's a question, but the fact is that they arrive at some conclusion. So as a product, as the end product, UX still happens. And I think the important bit here is to be able to decouple UX as a final product, which could be, good or bad, and also UX as a process. Actually user-centric, research-driven, scientific enough, and very informed product design or service design. Because you either do it as it's supposed to be done, or you just forget about it and you skip it, and then the result might be even worse for the user experience. And how do you know if you're actually doing the UX design? If, let's say, your current title of UI UX is going to do justice and actually not going to get dismissed when you apply for that role, which says UX designer. Ultimately, we need to go back to the roots of the user experience. If you take something like the disciplines of the user experience, you're going to notice that actual UI is, again, a small bit of it. There's a lot of other ways you can solve problems. And this is a prompt which I give to a lot of growing designers, and it's in particular juniors, when they say, I don't know if I'm good enough, is I tell them, imagine if you join a project and throughout the research and ideation efforts, you realize that the solution doesn't have to have a UI. Are you going to feel useless? Are you just going to shut down? Are you going to exit? Are you going to contribute somehow otherwise? Would you be able to contribute and provide value if there wouldn't be a UI down the road? But if a business just says, hey, I want this app done, you don't just take that requirement and just go and flesh it out and make an app. You should run research, you should run discovery efforts and figure out if it's actually the right thing and push just enough so you can pull back and actually arrive at something which works not just for business, but also changes the customer behavior for the better, so you can achieve the business goals with whatever solution it could be. And in a lot of instances, it could have been that app we wanted, but what we actually needed could have been also the service level of the design. It could be some offline touchpoints, it could be hardware, it could have been printouts, it could have been a lot of different ways which would do proper UX. Again, continuation of that issue of UI/UX design, because you are boxing in and you're so focused on UI being the ultimate win that roles which are truly holistic or experienced enough, like at the senior level, might tell you no, because we need more. We need you to be able to run that change management, so when the business comes and says, we want to reduce the costs, and we think, our hypothesis is that if we add this app, our customers are going to be happy, and therefore the cost of, let's say, support or whatever other metric would actually reduce. As a UX designer, you should be able to pick up that sheet, that requirement, and kind of reflect and say, well, why do you think it's an app? Why do you think it needs a UI? Can we go back and reflect and actually break it down and deconstruct reconstruct and reframe the problem and rehypothesize so that we can actually arrive and see what's there and what could be done. Because ultimately, as a UX designer, you should be there to change the customer or user behaviors to arrive at that goal, which is cost reduction. You shouldn't even think about UI. UI is great. It's a collection of the disciplines which you can answer any business challenge, let's say, with, but it doesn't mean it's going to be ultimately right. And that's where I would challenge you to think more holistically. And again, how do you know if you're doing UX? That's ultimately something you need to think about, because if you just take out the UI end, and when I say UI, I mean, you know, the actual digital interface, would you be able to contribute and add value? If so, sure, you're actually crafting user experiences which are holistic enough to call themselves user experiences. But of course, you could challenge me and say that, well, my role is a product designer, and so I'm committed and I know that I'm only gonna design products. Fair enough. You know, that discipline, division, and specialties are very fair. I'm not challenging you on that. I'm just saying that at some point, if you're gonna go into leadership positions or experience design, which is end-to-end, or you wanna get a seat at the table, you are gonna fry up, because you're gonna realize that UI alone is just a scratching of the surface, that's not really what business values the most. It's the deeper impact and a much more holistic take on challenges. It's the customer experiences, it's the service design, it's the user experience end-to-end, which cover everything, intertwined. I think this should have said no research, no design. That would do it even better justice. But ultimately, you know, I know for a fact that UI/UX roles are not the ones which usually are paired with user research, or they allow enough user research. I'm sure if you are one of the people who have the title, know what I'm talking about, because I receive so many on, let's say, the Discord community. There's almost every other request is like, how can I introduce user research? How can I do user research even if I'm not allowed to do that? I have, by the way, a video on that, and it's all about user research, because that's what businesses don't want people to do, even if they need that, even if they cannot survive without user insights and themes which are actionable and can change the behaviors for a better, so that the business goals are achieved. For whatever reason, if you are not allowed or you're not doing user research, then you're not doing UX. And this might seem like it contradicts that UX happens regardless, because, you know, it could be a result. I'm talking about the process of UX, which cannot happen without enough user research. And I know that a lot of you are going to reflect back and going to be like, okay, I might need to invest more into user research. I might need to think about other methods and ways to solve user problems besides just a digital UI or making an app or the interface or adding this new feature. And so if you like this video, smash that like button. Also make sure to let me know what you think about it, maybe share with a friend. And on that note, I'll see you next time.